It was here in 1812 on this quiet coastal bluff in Sonoma County that Native American tribes watched as land-grabbing explorers built a mighty fortress equipped with cannons.
Both the Russians and the Spanish were at the ends of their empire, and the Spanish actually considered this their territory.
The wooden fortress became known as Fort Ross. Today, it's a state park, but in the early 1800s, it was a Russian settlement, and the Russians saw it as a boundary line between them and the encroaching Spanish Empire. The land in this region has two valuable resources: fertile land and fur.
The sea otter was the most valuable. One pelt was worth up to $100 back then. That was like a year's salary for a farmer.
Interpreter Hank Birnbaum says the Russian fur trade was big business, and Alaska was one of their primary hunting grounds. But due to the difficulty of growing food and getting supplies in the area, they expanded their territory to Northern California, and they didn't go alone.
And I'd like to give special attention to the Alaskans. Often there were more Alaskans here, Alaska natives, than there were Russians.
While in Alaska, the Russians enslaved indigenous Alaskan hunters and brought them here to Fort Ross.
This wouldn't have been successful, this whole adventure, if it wasn't for the Alaskan natives. You could imagine them in their kamlaika. This would be made out of sea lion guts.
The Alaskan hunters weren't the only natives living at Fort Ross. Shortly after their arrival, the Russians came to an agreement with the local Kashaya tribe to live on their land and employ the Kashaya as laborers.
It's a very diverse community.
Absolutely, yeah. And then here, there was a lot of intermarriage with the Kashaya and Coast Miwok.
In all, a few hundred people lived in or around the fort. Along with hunting, the people here built large ships. They built homes, and although there was never a permanent priest, Russian Orthodox Christians built an ornate wooden chapel with enchanting acoustics.
Gospodи pomili, Gospodi pomili, Gospodi pomili. Hear how it fills the room, yes? And the cupola was designed, they say, to help send the prayers or the songs to heaven.
Even though the Spanish and Russian empires were in a race to claim California, there was never actually an attack or an attempt to breach the giant walls of Fort Ross.
You know, in terms of the Spanish and Russians, they need each other more than they need to fight each other.
Instead of fighting, the Spanish, the Russians, and the Native Americans found it easier to trade goods and services with each other. And this coexistence lasted for around 30 years, until there was no more otters to hunt for fur.
Sadly, now the otters are gone. Hopefully, if we give Mother Nature a hand, maybe the otters could come back and it would help stabilize the ecology here.
Fort Ross was never forgotten. After Russian fur hunters left, settlers moved into California during the gold rush. Today, though, State Parks uses Fort Ross to teach lessons from the past and educate people about future preservation.
That dual purposes, right? Both of enjoy, recreate, so forth, but also to learn from and to bring balance and health.
From Fort Ross State Historic Park, I'm John Bartell. Hope to see you on the Backroads.